You're listening to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. This is the Acupuncture On Air program. Our pleasure, as always, to have in the hot seat Heiko from the Acupuncture Clinic in Hastings. How you going, Heiko?
I'm really good, Ken, and you. And I was quite surprised. I saw you the other night at the Municipal Theatre when Manfred Mann, or should I say that the Manfreds were there.
Yes, indeed, along with 1,000 other people of our age.
Yeah, and I say for a little Napier, like a packed-out venue like that, it was quite amazing. And you probably didn't realise, but I was sitting maybe 3 or 4 seats behind you, and I saw you there singing along to Ewa Diddy Dum Diddy Dum.
Yeah, that's the one. What a great
I was just wondering if you can do that for us now, like live on the show.
Look, you paid to hear Paul Jones sing, so you got to pay to hear me sing. Anyway, look, it was a great concert, as you say, and I think there wasn't a person in that room who wouldn't have been singing along to at least one of those songs, but that song in particular.
Yeah. And I think they timed it quite well the way, because it was nearly a 2-hour show.
Yeah.
And just led up to that.
That's
big
right.
finale.
That was
so,
crescendo, wasn't it?
They did a very, very good show.
And I think the good thing about those concerts now is that they're actually timing them for old people. Like, we were home in bed by 10 o'clock. Anyway, just remind our listeners before we get into today's topic, which is Chinese herbs for constipation, a subject that just about everyone would suffer from at one stage in their life or another. Just remind our listeners, want to come and see you for some acupuncture. Where are you?
Come and see for some acupuncture and Chinese herbs. Yep. I'm at 206 Charles Street, Hastings. Go to my website, acu123.co.nz.
Might be just my imagination, but we don't seem to have mentioned moxibustion for a while.
Okay, well maybe next week we better do a show on that then.
Indeed.
It's always good to do a little show like that.
Okay,
but today, I just want to talk about, as we know, constipation is a very, very common complaint, and it affects some people, very, very badly. And again, it's one of these things, from a Western science point of view, unless there's some disease that they can diagnose or find, there's not a lot that they can actually do to help it. And Chinese herbs comes to the rescue.
Yeah. Why do we get it? Just as an aside.
Oh look, there's so many different causes for it, and I think unfortunately it does get labelled into that it's diet or not enough water or something like that. And what you'll find with these type of statements is that then people go out and then they try to change their diet or start drinking 8 litres of water a day or something.
Yes.
And it doesn't actually help it, because there's many different causes, Western medicine, but also in terms of traditional Chinese diagnosis, where different organs, liver, spleen, kidneys, all can contribute to constipation.
I mean, you're going to tell us that we need Chinese herbs, but I think is it an old wives' tale? Just go and eat some prunes.
Look, and I said that helps for some people, but you find people who have serious chronic constipation from whatever cause it might be, that may actually make the condition worse. It actually just creates more bloating and more blockage. And same as some of these things, like you have alpine tea, and then you can there's these different sort of fig-based sort of fruity things that you eat, and in the end what happens is that the bowel itself becomes quite dependent on these, and it's almost a bit like a drug reaction. They need it in stronger and larger doses. But it's not actually, because it's not treating the root cause of what the background mechanism to it is. That's the problem.
I was surprised when reading your notes, although I should never be surprised when I'm reading your notes, is that you're sort of blaming the liver, and I would have thought it would be something to do with the gut.
Look, in this show, there's a number of different causes, and that's why I sort of brought up a few of the more ones that might surprise people. And the liver is one of those, because people sort of think, well, your liver's over here, but then your bowels are down here. The body is interconnected, and the liver plays a big role with health from we're talking about a traditional sense of the liver, not the modern medical liver. And what happens is that that the liver is responsible for the free flow and course of energy. It moves the energy around. And things that can block that is particularly with emotional states. And in this case, with the liver, we're looking at sort of anger, hatred, irritability, impatience. very much
what we are.
radio kidnappers sort of
Yes.
dealing with upper management sort of situation. But yeah, you can see that's why that's a big underlying cause, and so that then blocks the energy, which then influences the intestines, and then sort of gets that problem. And one example is that women can tend to get constipation before the menstrual cycle, and that's often associated with the liver, because the liver's a big organ to do with the blood, the menstrual cycle to do with the blood, and so then if that's getting stuck or blocked because of suppressed emotions, then the bowels get stuck, and then when you have stuckness, if you like, and then you want to think, oh well, I'll fix that with eating lots of prunes or kiwi fruit, all that's just contributing to more stuckness. And that's what people say, I tried that, but it makes me so bloated and it becomes painful,
Is it a fine line, I wonder, between constipation and diarrhea? Because some of the things that you mentioned, emotional state of mind and whatnot, they can also cause diarrhea. So is it a fine line?
Yeah, and again, that's sort of the irritable bowel syndrome, which is alternating constipation and diarrhea. So it's a bit like, the constipation builds up, and then finally, like, the emotions do try to, unblock themselves from the physical body, and then we can get, diarrhea and loose stools.
Okay, you talk about yin and yang quite often. Is constipation caused by too much of one or the other?
Yeah, and again, it's. I wish I could answer that in a simple yes or no, but there's different aspects to yin and yang problems. You can get constipation from yin deficiency, and you can get get constipation from yang deficiency. There's a different type, and I'll just mention a little bit about the yin deficiency one. In a nutshell, to simplify the understanding, yin is usually to do with the fluid, and yang is to do with the fire and activity. If the yin becomes damaged in some way, such as a history of fevers and sweating, working night shifts, late nights, having too many hot, sort of spicy, dry foods, we say then the yin gets damaged, and that leaves this residue of yang, which is heat. And that heat then dries up the fluids, and then the fluids in the bowels become dry. So these type of people, and it doesn't sound nice to think, but the bowel can often go, but it's very, very dry and very difficult to go. So then the concept of that, to treat the cause of that, is to use herbs that we say moisten the dryness. And for an example of that one is like black sesame seeds, because they have a moistening, oily content. Other foods that can help to nourish the yin, like for example, if the yin is weak, it might damage the lung yin, so you have a dry cough. You might have stewed pears to moisten the lung yin. So you have different herbs that target different areas where the yin deficiency is prevalent.
One might suggest, Heiko, that if we had a good basic diet, and we got out there and did some exercise, that we probably wouldn't suffer from constipation. I guess that probably is...
as a general thing,
for me and you. What about people who can't get out and exercise, people who are maybe bedridden? What do you recommend for them?
See, and they said that becomes sort of a double-edged sword. It's just sort of you get older, you go to the nursing home, and you have arthritis in your knee and your hip, or you're dizzy because of a history of strokes or whatever. You can't get out and walk about. So then that of course creates more stagnation and more blockage, and so then it becomes more and more difficult. And so Chinese medicine has sort of taken into account that to what the word is of aging gracefully. There are different types of herbs that we might use to help to nourish people as we get older. And like one of them, for example, is actually a walnut, and but it's not just eating the walnuts raw. It's actually getting the walnuts and then boiling them like as a soup, if you like, or as a tea. And so you drink the water, if you like, from the boiled up mixture, as well as eating the nut, and that sort of we say tonifies the yang. It gives a bit of fire and oomph to make the bowels work.
As you get older, and using that example, someone who might be bedridden, does that mean that herbal remedy that you're suggesting becomes a part of your daily life?
It probably would. If there's a susceptibility to the constipation. I mean, as we all know, different people have different symptoms or problems as they age. And some people, go to 93 and never have a problem, but others, start to become sedentary. Then the bowels stop working. Yeah. So then these people, it would be a good thing to do something like, say, with the walnut soup and whatever.
Is walnut soup yummy?
Yeah, it is.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Take your word for it. Tell us another cause of it.
There's other causes. Even the lungs can cause constipation, because we say
really?
the lungs have a connection with the large intestine. We say that's part of the metal element. And one is yin and one is yang. And as you know, the lungs are particularly to do with breathing and air and qi and whatever coming in. And these ones actually then, respond well to exercise. So that if your constipation is coming from a lung imbalance, and then you're breathing in and you're doing your exercises, then,
Yeah.
And I have many patients like that. They say, look, as long as I'm doing my walk every day, or as long as I get out there and I don't know, having my round of golf 3 times a week, it keeps me regular.
Yeah.
And this is again another reason why the different organs can be associated with it. But another one that we have is say the bowels directly, and we have a condition that we call it knotted heat in the yang ming, and it loosely relates to sort of like built up heat and blockage in the intestines, and that ironically can come from cold, like catching a cold, because when the cold comes in, it sinks down a level, if you like, from the upper body to the lower body, and then the cold then stagnates and then becomes heat, and then you have like what we call like a knotted heat. And these type of people, they get constipated. They might go every 3 days or 4 days, and they say it looks like sheep droppings, because all that heat is blocking up there. So then we have different herbs for that. One of the it's in a formula. The formula has rhubarb in it. It's a sort of a Chinese version of rhubarb, but not the leaf, but the root. And then we say that it's to clear out that blocked up heat that's causing the constipation.
What a yummy way to end the show.
Yeah, I know. It's a fantastic way to end the show.
Now, we're going to hear a song from you, but before we get there, just remind our listeners, we want to come and see you for any advice, or we want to be treated by acupuncture, or have some Chinese herbs, or have some moxibustion.
Moxibustion, and there's cupping. You forgot
that's right. Forgot the cupping. That's right. It sort of looks like something out of it.
So best just go to my website, acu123.co.nz. There's lots of information on there about the different diseases acupuncture can help with, and how does acupuncture work and why does it work, as well as the details of where I am.
And you've got about 50 or 60 shows up on Radio Kidnappers' website at least, and you're also on YouTube.
Yep, we're on YouTube,
yes.
and I'm seeing that some of the shows are getting lots of hits now. I mean, we recorded them like last year or whatever it was, and they're getting quite popular out there. But
what song you got for us this week?
Well, we can see we were at the Manfreds at that concert on the weekend, and then my favourite song actually of the 2 hours, I actually had to look it up because I could, after the concert, Smokestack Lightning, and I didn't know that it was a Chester Burnett Howling Wolf song,
right,
but the version that they did, and with Paul Jones's harmonica, he's amazing, unbelievable.
And a lot of people weren't aware that the Manfreds, or Manfred Mann, they were heavily into the blues.
Yeah.
And they did it really well.
No, they were exceptionally good. And I guess they were one of those bands, they had trouble to get a sort of a longer term identity. They didn't really have albums like
not
Beatles
like Let It Be, and that's right, exactly.
But they sort of were, got labelled as sort of like
they were just a pop band,
and had some, and they had some really good singles, really good songs, but they never managed to sort of become an album band.
And testament to their music, of course, is that here we are nearly 60 years later, still listening to it.
Yep.
They had to be good. Anyway, we'll finish off with a song called The Smokestack Lightning by Manfred Mann. Good on you, Heiko. As always, a pleasure. Look after yourself. Talk to you same time, same place next week.
Okay, we'll see you then.